Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the topics that we shall be discussing today. But before we start, a very important announcement for all of you. As you know, today is the last date of this offer. Our Plus subscription is available at 16,999. Now listen to me carefully why I am sharing this with you. I do not know whether this offer would be repeated or not. But one thing I can tell you with honesty and with utmost confidence and authority that our subscription fee will not go below this. It may increase, it may remain the same, but it won't go below this. So if at all you want to enroll with us, today is the best and opportune time for you to enroll with us at this subscription 16,999. Because why pay extra? And use this code IS English whenever you wish to enroll with us. So let's get started and let's look at topic number 1. Why has the creamy layer debate returned to the court? And listen to me carefully. We have reservation for SCs. We have reservation for STs. We have reservation for the OBCs. And we have reservation for the economically weaker sections of the society. But only for SCs and STs, there is also reservation in promotion. There is no reservation in promotion for OBCs and EWS, but only for SCs and STs. But listen to me carefully. For OBCs, there is a concept called creamy layer, which means not all OBCs would get the benefit of reservation, only those who belong to non-creamy layer within the OBC community. Now, why this topic becomes very, very important for your upcoming examination? Listen to me carefully. When it comes to SCs and STs, who has the power to add a caste or a tribe to this list? That power is available with the president. And president does this on the basis of the law enacted by the parliament. So we have a central list of SCs. We have a central list of STs. But when it comes to OBCs, there is a central list and there is a state list as well. That means who has the power to identify OBCs or socially and educationally backward classes of citizens other than SCs and STs? That power is with the center as well as the states. But can states have their own SC list, own ST list? No. Who has the power to add or remove from this SC or ST list? That power is with the center, with the president, based on the law enacted by the parliament. But listen to me carefully. Can states tinker with this SC/ST list? And this is what we call subcategorization or sub-classification. Sub-classification in the sense, can states say that 15% reservation which is provided to SCs, but within SCs there are other castes, different SC groups. For some groups we will give more reservation, for some groups we will give less reservation. Is that constitutionally permissible? Yes. Who said this? This is according to the judgment of the Supreme Court in 2024, a very important judgment, State of Punjab v. Devinder Singh 2024. According to this judgment, Supreme Court has given the power to the states that you can tinker with this list, which means who is SC, who is ST, that center will decide. But for your particular state, you may give more reservation to one particular caste group within SCs, one particular tribal group within STs. That is constitutionally permissible. This judgment was given by 7 judges of the Supreme Court. But in the same judgment, 4 judges of the Supreme Court, they also said that there should be application of creamy layer for SCs and STs. Right now, there is no creamy layer application for SCs and STs. Everybody who is part of SC or ST community, they get the benefits of reservation. But can we apply the OBC model to SCs and STs? Just like for the OBCs, we have non-creamy layer and creamy layer. Only those who are part of the non-creamy layer, they avail the benefits of the reservation. Can we do that for SCs and STs as well? This was said by 4 judges of the Supreme Court. That means majority. But listen to me carefully. This was part of obiter dicta. That means this was the observation of the 4 judges of the Supreme Court. This is not part of the judgment. That means the 7 judges of the Supreme Court did not direct that there should be creamy layer application for SCs and STs. No, it was only part of their observation. Now a petition has been filed before the Supreme Court that we should provide for creamy layer for SCs and STs. Whether that will happen or not, that we will have to see. But one more thing. How did this concept of creamy layer come into the picture? This was because of the judgment of the Supreme Court in the Indira Sani case, also known as the Mandal case. When OBC reservation was provided in government jobs, 27% reservation was provided to the OBCs. Matter went to the Supreme Court. A PIL was filed by this lawyer Indira Sani. The Supreme Court decided that yes, OBC reservation is constitutional. But for that, you have to satisfy 5 criteria. Number 1, you have to prove that these groups that you have included in this OBC, they are socially as well as educationally backward. And not just that, you don't have to only prove that they are socially and educationally backward. You also have to prove that they are not adequately represented in the administration. You also have to ensure that reservation shall not exceed beyond 50%. That means SC, ST, OBC reservation combined, it should not cross 50% threshold unless and until there are compelling circumstances. That is why in Tamil Nadu we have 67% reservation, 69% reservation. So you can breach this 50% cap as well, but only if there are compelling extraordinary circumstances. But sir, with the provision of EWS reservation of 10%, have we not breached the 50% mark? 15% for SCs, 7.5% for STs, 27% for OBCs, 10% for EWS, that amounts to 59.5%. Have we not breached this mark? Supreme Court said, when EWS reservation was challenged before the Supreme Court said this 50% cap is only for SC, ST, OBC reservation. That means reservation for SCs, STs, OBCs put together combined should not exceed beyond 50%. But you have provided 10% reservation, but that is for a different class of citizens, those who are economically weaker sections of the society. But be that as it may, Supreme Court further said that reservation can be provided only to the non-creamy layer individuals, not to the creamy layer. But how do we know who is part of the creamy layer, who is not part of the creamy layer? For that, an order was issued by Department of Personnel and Training. This is the office memorandum issued in 1993. According to this office memorandum, who is part of the creamy layer within the OBCs? And if you are part of OBCs, but you belong to the creamy layer, you will not get the benefits of reservation. It's a very important topic, and I'll tell you, Rohit Nathan judgment, which was delivered by the Supreme Court this year, that is also related to this topic. Now, who is part of the creamy layer? Office memorandum said the children of those people who are holding constitutional positions, such as the children of the President, the Vice President of India, judges of the High Courts and the Supreme Court, children of Class 1 and Class 2 officers directly recruited into either the central government or the state government, and children of officers in the armed forces or paramilitary forces above a particular rank. For example, if your father is holding a rank of colonel or above in the Indian Army, even if you are OBC, but you belong to creamy layer, you cannot avail the benefits of reservation. Which means we are talking about class. We are talking about status. Which means even if, listen to me carefully, even if you belong to OBC, but you belong to this class or status of society, you are part of the creamy layer, you cannot avail the benefits of reservation if you're holding these positions. Apart from that, there is income or wealth test. What if you're not holding these positions, but you are part of the salaried class? You are engaged in trade, you are holding plantations, you have vacant land and buildings in urban areas. That means there is something called income or wealth tax or wealth test. Even if you belong to OBCs, but you have income or wealth beyond a particular limit which is provided by the central government, then you belong to creamy layer. You cannot avail the benefits of reservation. Listen to me carefully. There is vice president at Unacademy. Can you equate this position to the vice president of India? Clearly no. Vice president of India has a status. Vice president of a small company like Unacademy does not enjoy the same social status as that of the vice president of India. Right or wrong? Right. Similarly, you are part of class 1 or class 2 group in central government or state government. For example, you are part of All India services. You are part of the central services. Similarly, there are people who are recruited into public sector undertakings. Whether central public sector undertakings or state public sector undertakings. Can we equate class 1 officers to these officers who are part of these public sector undertakings? We may, but for that central government will have to specify that if you're holding these positions within PSUs, then your children belong to creamy layer and you cannot avail the benefits of reservation. Which means we decide creamy layer based on your class or status, not because of your wealth, not because of your income. Which means whatever your income is, but if you are a children belonging to armed forces personnel above the rank of colonel, you are creamy layer. Similarly, regardless of what your salary is, or your parent's salary is, or your annual income of your parent is, but if you belong to a family where the father or the mother, they are holding positions of class 1 or class 2 in services, you are creamy layer. But can we equate these posts to some posts which are there in public sector undertakings? For that, equivalent posts have to be established by the central government. The government has to specify that these posts, if you're holding in central or state public sector undertakings, your children cannot avail the benefits of reservation. Now there was a confusion. What was the confusion? And that is how Rohit Nathan judgment was delivered by the Supreme Court in 2026 for this particular class. Which class? That there are children whose parents are holding positions in public sector undertakings. But whether these positions can be equated to class 1 or class 2 posts in the central or state government, that the government has not clarified. So for these people, income test used to be prescribed. Income test what? The government had said in 1993, listen to me carefully, that while calculating income, we will not take into account your income from salaries or your agricultural income. That will not be determining factor. If you have income which is from, let's say, property or business or capital gains, if this goes beyond 8 lakh, then you are part of the creamy layer. You cannot avail the benefits of reservation. But whether your salary is beyond 8 lakh or your agricultural income is beyond 8 lakh, doesn't matter. You are still part of non-creamy layer. Which means income test, when we have to decide on the basis of your income, whether you are part of OBC or creamy layer or non-creamy layer, this income will not be based on your salary, your parent's salary. It will be based on other incomes such as capital gains, business, property. This was the order issued in 1993. In 2004, another order of DOPT suggests that we will take into account income from salary as well. Which means these public sector undertakings, officers, if their salary is more than 8 lakhs, their children belong to creamy layer. They cannot avail the benefits of reservation. Sir, what are you trying to say? Article 14. Equality before law. Like should be treated alike. Those who are in similar circumstances should be treated similarly. Can you equate a child whose father is a class 1 or class 2 officer in the central or state government with a child whose father is holding a post in a public sector undertaking? These seem to be people belonging to two different categories. It was on this matter that Supreme Court said, income alone will not matter. Income alone will not determine for these children whether they are part of the creamy layer or not. Unless and until equivalent posts are established by the government, which will equate that such posts of public sector undertakings can be equated to that of class 1 or class 2 positions in central or state government. Sir, what are you trying to say? I am saying this article talks about two things. Number one, petition before the Supreme Court which says we should apply creamy layer to SCs and STs as well, because that is what was told by the Supreme Court in Devinder v. State of Punjab 2024. This article says that is mischievous. Why? Because the majority judges in Devinder case did not mandate that there should be creamy layer for SCs and STs. It was only part of oral observation, obiter dicta, which is not part of the judgment. Second, when we talk about Rohit Nathan case, can income alone decide whether you are part of creamy layer or non-creamy layer, or should status decide? It should be status. And that is what Dr. Ambedkar also spoke about. He spoke of status and not income to determine whether you are part of whether you will get reservation or not. And this is where this article says Parliament has the authority. Parliament has the democratic obligation as well, that Parliament should enact a law and clarify that for SCs and STs, they were always considered backward. And for them, creamy or non-creamy layer cannot be applicable. This is according to the article. Whether you agree with it or disagree with this, that is up to you. But this is what the article says. Article says Parliament has the constitutional authority as well, democratic obligation as well, to clarify once and for all that creamy layer should not apply to SCs and STs because these communities were deemed as backward. And you cannot further classify them into creamy and non-creamy layer. And at the same time, when you look at children of persons who are holding positions in public sector undertakings, unless and until Parliament or the central government identifies those positions in these public sector undertakings and makes them equivalent to class 1 or class 2 officers, that means you are elevating their status. Only when you elevate their status, only then their children can belong to creamy layer. Till that time, income alone will not decide whether you are part of creamy or non-creamy layer. Your status will decide. That is what is the imprint of this judgment, Rohit Nathan v. Union of India 2026. Clear? Great. Now let's look at another article written by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, The War on Iran and the Gulf's Shattered Illusions. Dr. Shashi Tharoor says, look at this map. This is where Iran is. Iran is in a chaos. Desalination plants hit, infrastructure hit, roads and bridges hit. Their leadership has been obliterated. We do not know who runs the government in Iran, whether it is the hardline faction or the moderate faction. What is the status of their current leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini, whether he is alive or not, or whether he is able to spell out the policies or not, whether it is the Speaker of the Parliament who gets to decide, or it is the Revolutionary Guard which gets to decide. So Iran is in a state of crisis. Iran, before this crisis, this regime was also oppressive. There were millions of people, lakhs of people who protested on the streets of Iran asking for their rights, because this authoritative government in Iran was controlling the lives of the people. in such a manner that it was becoming oppressive, in such a manner that it was becoming repressive. Freedom of speech and expression curtailed, right to internet curtailed, their free movement curtailed. Now, after this war, Dr. Shashi Tharoor fears that this hardline faction in Iran will become even more stronger, and then there will be even more repression. So, what should we do? According to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, these countries in the Gulf surrounding Iran, for example, Oman, UAE, Kuwait, other countries such as Saudi Arabia, they have the responsibility of ensuring that they redevelop Iran. Why? Not out of altruism, that they are being good to the people of Iran or to the government in Iran and we are helping you to rebuild your country. No, out of your necessity. Necessity in the sense, if Iran is chaotic, unstable, then what will happen? It will export that instability. How it will export this instability? Listen to me carefully. Iran has long cultivated organizations or built organizations beyond states. States in the sense, they may not have good relations with country X, Y, Z, but they will build organizations within these countries, non-state actors, and basically these non-state actors will wage war on behalf of Iran. For example, we have Houthis in Yemen. For example, we have Hezbollah in Lebanon. For example, we have Hamas in Palestine. These are the organizations which have been funded, fueled, given patronage by Iran, so that tomorrow if they have to face any war, these are the organizations which will come to their rescue. And what if, and these are terrorist organizations, and what if the unstable Iran will export such organizations to other Gulf countries, then it is going to be detrimental to the image which is projected by the Gulf countries, the image that they are stable than any other country in our neighborhood. And not for altruistic reason, not for selfless reason, but for their selfish reason. Other countries in the Gulf, they should take part in building Iran, because unstable Iran is going to be detrimental to the safety and the security of the region. Now listen to me carefully. The war on Iran, as I told you, it has devastated the country. Cities have been reduced to rubble, the governance has been paralyzed, millions are displaced. But what about the Gulf countries? After Iran was attacked by United States and Israel, how Iran responded? Iran responded by attacking Israel, yes, but Iran responded by attacking UAE, by attacking Saudi Arabia, by attacking Bahrain, by attacking the country which was negotiating on their behalf, the Oman. Why? Because Iran said these are the countries which have US bases. And these US bases, they pose a security challenge and threat to Iran. Or it may be a classic example where Iran says, if we go down, we will not go down alone, we will take with us everybody else. So if you are projecting this image that you are the centers of wealth of this world, look at what was the image of Dubai, the financial capital of the world in some sense, the transit capital of the world. Millions of people who would use the air transport to move from one part of the world to another part of the world will go through Dubai. The rising prices of real estate, the image of UAE that it is the financial hub of the world, all has come down to zero. Why? Because of the image that they had cultivated, that we are safe. Even if there will be turmoil in Iran or Iraq or Sudan or Libya or other countries of the world in this region, but we will remain safe. That image has been shattered. But the point is, what about India? Iran has been India's important neighbor. not just neighbor, it has cultural ties with Iran. Once upon a time, there was a resolution brought in by Pakistan and other Islamic countries in the United Nations Human Rights Council on Kashmir. And it was Iran which stopped that resolution. Because ideally, that resolution was put forward in Organization of Islamic Countries, OIC. And OIC works with consensus. Iran is a member of the OIC. So when other members of OIC decided that we will table a resolution so that United Nations Human Rights Council can investigate so-called war crimes in Kashmir, it was Iran which stopped this. Iran also has had cultural ties with India. There are people who go to Iran, who have been going to Iran to opt for medical education. But the point is, it is Iran's Chabahar port which gives us access to Afghanistan and the other countries in this region. For example, what is our access to Afghanistan? Through Pakistan. And to Central Asia, what is our access? Pakistan to Afghanistan, then to Central Asia. But if Pakistan does not give us access, what is our way to reach the Central Asia? Then we take a detour. We reach the Chabahar port in Iran, and from there we travel to the Middle East. That's how our goods can travel to the Central Asia. But on this Chabahar port, the war has disrupted this. And it will also challenge our multi-alignment policy. How? We are having good relations with US, although it has been tempered with the erratic nature of Donald Trump. We have had defense ties with Israel. We have good ties with the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, for example, Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. We depend on them for our crude oil needs. We also depend on them for remittances. Remittances are one big way of contributing to India's growth and development. And on the other hand, we have ties with Iran as well. When we started our policy of non-alignment, that we will neither ally with the US-led power bloc nor with the USSR-led power bloc after the end of the Second World War, the focus was that we will not be aligned with any other power bloc, but we will have multilateral arrangements. We will have alignments with different power blocs. And this is our strategy. But now this war is testing us, because when Ayatollah Khamenei was killed in the airstrikes by US and Israel, India did not explicitly condemn the killing, condemn the assassination. In fact, we sent our foreign secretary to the Iranian embassy to offer condolences, where some experts say that such condolences should have come from the political class. Is it because we do not want to antagonize United States or our defense partner Israel, or is it because of ideology that we are not condemning the assassination of Khamenei? That is for the policymakers to decide. But what is happening in Iran, it will affect India's connectivity ambitions and energy security, because we depend on this region for oil, and we also depend on this region to get access to Central Asia. Not just that. Afghanistan was considered to be the graveyard of empires. Whichever country or power bloc tried to control Afghanistan, they had to bite the dust, they had to lose. Britain lost Afghanistan in the 1800s. It was the Soviet Union which was defeated in Afghanistan. Then there was the withdrawal of United States a couple of years ago when Taliban recaptured Afghanistan. That is why Afghanistan is considered to be the graveyard of empires. But this concept graveyard of empires started with the Great Game. And what was that Great Game? This is Afghanistan. Big power bloc was Soviet Union. Another power bloc was United Kingdom, England. England was controlling India. We were a colony of Britain. Soviet Union wanted access to these areas. Afghanistan emerged as the buffer state. Britain wanted to stop Soviet Union so that it does not pass this region so as to enter India. And Soviet Union also wanted to infiltrate into this region so as to get closer to India because India was part of the British Empire. And this is how a great game was played in Afghanistan, where both the countries, both the power blocks were trying to compete for their influence in Afghanistan. Sir, what is the link? The link is, how do great power rivalries in West Asia create strategic dilemmas for India? Dr. Shashi Tharoor writes that there are US air bases in UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and these are considered to be safety providers to these Gulf countries. But now it has come to fore that it is the existence and presence of these very air bases that is the cause of tension in the Gulf. Gulf in the sense. These air bases, US air bases, how did they originate in this region? It started when United States said, we will give you protection from Saddam Hussein because Iraq invaded Kuwait. And this is how United States decided that we will give you protection. You give us access to your area, to your territory, we will set up our bases and we will provide you security. Now there are some countries, for example, Saudi Arabia, for example, Qatar, even for that matter, UAE, who may now feel that the very presence of these US air bases has invited the wrath of Iran. And Iran is now attacking us. Why? Because our territories house these US air bases. And United States is more focused on providing protection to Israel rather than us. This is where Saudi Arabia has had a strategic security partnership with Pakistan. Because Saudi Arabia had a security relationship with United States. But Israel attacked Qatar and killed some of the Hamas terrorists in Qatar. Iran also attacked Qatar. So Qatar may have felt that we are the only country which is attacked by Israel as well as Iran, by the two enemies. We thought that we would be protected by United States, but United States seems to be protecting Israel and not us. And now there are talks that Qatar will also have the same security pact with Pakistan. When Saudi Arabia realized this, that Qatar was not saved by United States when Israel attacked it, then in that manner, we may also not be saved if something untoward happens tomorrow. And in that reason, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan had a security pact where it says that any attack on Saudi Arabia will be an attack on Pakistan. Any attack on Pakistan will be an attack on Saudi Arabia. That security military pact between the two countries, which may now be extended according to newspaper reports between Qatar and Pakistan as well. What's that going to leave the position of Pakistan in the Middle East that we will discuss in the next article? But listen to me carefully. Our diaspora is also vulnerable in these conflict areas. This diaspora sends us remittances to India from Gulf countries. Now there is also every likelihood and possibility of job contracts ending, of hiring freezes, of reduced hiring of Indian workers in these areas, which will affect our remittances as well, and which will affect the security of our diaspora as well. So that is what this conflict does. Even if this conflict is far beyond the borders of India, but it has an impact on us, on our energy security, on our connectivity issue, on diaspora, on our multi-arrangement. And towards the end, Dr. Shashi Tharoor talks about write something important. Prosperity built on fragile foundations cannot endure. And this can be your essay topic for the mains examination. Prosperity built on fragile foundations cannot endure. Fragile foundations in the sense, these Gulf countries for a long period of time, they have flourished and developed because they have singularly focused on one commodity, which is oil. They need to move beyond it. And that is how countries like UAE or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, they are trying to diversify, moving away from oil, focusing on technology, AI, to build other areas, tourism, finance, to focus on or to build other areas of expertise so that beyond oil, they can also develop themselves. Borrowed stability. Borrowed stability in the sense these countries thought that we will outsource our security to a country called United States of America. And once that country failed to secure you, this fragile foundation will have an impact. Countries, Saudi Arabia, for example, other countries, they use repression over reform. Repression in the sense, curbs on freedom of speech and expression, restrictions on press. And when there are restrictions in normal circumstances, it looks okay. But whenever there are the instances of war or turmoil, this is when you realize that this peace was fragile. And there are possibilities that you are showing to the world that we are prosperous, but you are using prosperity only as a perception. But in reality, it is singularly focused on one commodity or one sector. And if that sector comes under strain, the world around you collapses. And this is where prosperity built on fragile foundations cannot endure. It's a very important topic and can be relevant for your mains examination. Essay. Any questions as of now? Okay. Hate speech stems from an us versus them mindset, says the Supreme Court. What was the petition? This is hate speech. The petition said we need a law to regulate this speech, to criminalize this speech, because the existing mechanism is not working. Supreme Court dismissed this petition. Dismissed this petition saying, we do not need to direct the parliament to create a law specific for hate speech. We don't need to do that. Why? Because there already exists a mechanism. We just need to enforce that mechanism. Hate speech is what? Hate speech was defined by the Supreme Court in Amish Devgan v. Union of India 2020. Amish Devgan, an anchor in a television studio, he used some words, disparaging words towards the peer at Ajmer. What's his name? Khwaja Muhyiddin Chasti. He used some disparaging remarks against him, calling him thief, lutera, so on and so forth, which was not acceptable to the followers of this peer. Ultimately, a case was filed and he asked the court to protect him. Why? Because he said, I mistook. I had to refer to Alauddin Khilji and I mistakenly used and spoke about Khwaja Muhyiddin Chasti. I don't mean to denigrate this Sufi saint. But Supreme Court said, what do we mean by hate speech? It's an expression that vilifies, demeans, or incites psychosocial hatred or physical violence against a group. And this is where both context as well as content are crucial. What you say and who you are, in which context you are saying this, that will be the determining factor whether you are using your free speech to vilify a particular community or vilify a particular group, and you are advocating others that you ostracize this group, you socially boycott this group, or you impose economic boycott on this group. All this amounts to hate speech. This is what hate speech is. Hate speech must be analyzed based on what is your expression when you use these words. What is the language that you are using? What is the message that you are trying to convey? But at the same time, who, what, where, and when? Who gave this speech? When was it given? What was the circumstance? Was it when there was a religious polarization and you are adding fire to this fuel? Listen to me carefully. There is free speech. Can it be equated with killing? You would ideally think no. You are saying is one thing, but killing somebody with your bare hands or using weapons is another. So just by saying, you should not be equating your speech with that of murder. But there are some expressions of speech which amount to murder. Murder in the sense, there is some problem in our society. I am instigating you. Go and take arms. Yes, stab this individual. Yes, take out his eyes. I am not doing this harm physically, personally, but I'm egging you on. I am using my speech to further instigate you, and that leads to violence. It is this form of speech which needs to be criminalized, and that is why Constitution says incitement to an offense, violation of public order, violating the security of the state is a reasonable restriction on your free speech. But it depends on who is saying this. If a television anchor says this, if a political leader says this, if a member of the establishment says this, if a police officer says this, it amounts to seriousness, even more seriousness, because such actions, such speeches can have wider impact. So what was your intent? What is the role of the speaker? We have to differentiate it from free speech. For example, you criticize a political party or a leadership, or you criticize any individual without resorting to violence, without instigating violence, that is protected under free speech. Otherwise, no. Why did the Supreme Court then refuse to mandate or direct the parliament or direct the government that you should enact a new law on hate speech? Because the court said there is existing mechanism already in place. We just need to enforce it effectively. For example, previously we had Indian Penal Code. Now Indian Penal Code has been replaced with BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Previously we had section 153 capital A. Now it is section 196 of BNS. If you promote enmity between different groups on the grounds of religion, race, place of birth, isn't this a sufficient law for hate crime or hate speech? You promote enmity between religious groups based on what you say. That's covered already by the law. If you injure or defile a place of worship, desecrate a place of worship, that is also covered under the BNS section 298. If you are deliberately using words or doing something which outrage the religious feelings, calling, let's say, some ill words about the Prophet or a Bhagwan or the Jesus, you are trying to outrage the religious feelings of individuals. And this is what critics say. This is India's blasphemy law. Similar to the blasphemy laws they have in Pakistan, where if you say something against the Prophet, your limbs will be chopped. You can be killed. So if we already have an existing mechanism of protecting hate speech, particularly targeted at religion, then we don't need a separate law. We just need to enforce these provisions fairly. That's what the court said. Okay, now let's look at another column, South Asian power balance shift towards Pakistan. Now, what does this mean? Pakistan of today and Pakistan of last year or last to last year, drastic difference. Pakistan today is de facto run by self-acclaimed, proclaimed Field Marshal General Asim Munir. That is why Donald Trump, when referring to the Pakistani leadership, first he praises the Field Marshal and then praises the nominal head of Pakistan, the Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister. Right? But the point is, Pakistan has now become a mediator between United States and Iran to try and resolve the conflict. It is not only acting as a mediator, Pakistan also is the host of these negotiations. Whether these negotiations will lead to anything tangible or not, we will have to wait and watch, but at least it has led to a ceasefire, and ceasefire is holding well. Does this elevate the status of Pakistan? And can we view Pakistan as a powerful country now? That's the crux of this article. What does that leave India with? That's another aspect of this article. How can we say whether a particular country is powerful or not? One is its hard power, the other is its soft power. Hard power, you should have resources, you should have military, you should have technology to assert yourself. That's your power. Soft, when you punch above your weight, sometimes. Whether your decisions or your involvement can influence policies across the world or beyond your region. You can use cinema for that. You can use art for that. You can use literature for that. Whatever you want to do. It is the mix of this hard and soft power that determines whether a country is powerful or not. According to this article, we have a list of countries. At the top, we have a superpower. Superpower, the article says we have two superpowers in the world right now, United States and China. But why do we call these two countries superpowers? Because their policies, actions will affect the entire world. What United States does today will not only impact United States or North America, will impact the entire world. Nobody is there to question United States on its illegal war in Iran. Nobody can question United States of what it did with the president of Venezuela. Basically kidnapping the head of a state and transporting him back to your country. And this particular individual has the audacity to tell it openly that I'm doing it for oil. There is a lot of oil, I can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money. Oh, there is all money. Oil, oil, oil. So your actions, your policies will have an impact on the entire world. That's your influence. So you are a superpower. Same goes with China according to this article. Because China silently can dictate anything in the world. It may not get involved in Iran-US war, but it may provide intelligence to Iran. It may provide weapons to Iran. It may provide technological know-how to Iran. So China is that powerful country. So at the top, we have superpowers, United States and China. And why are they superpowers? Because they have the ability to project power globally. And through their policies, they can reshape the global order itself. Because they have powerful military, they have powerful economy, and they possess capability to project this power throughout the world. Next are global powers such as Russia. They have power within its own geography, but they cannot change the world order like the superpowers do, but they can project their power in multiple regions. And that is why Russia is a global power. Not just powerful within its territory, but look at what it did with Crimea when it annexed Crimea in 2004, because of which it was expelled from G8 countries. What it did and is doing with Ukraine, it has an important influence over Latin American countries as well. It has an important relationship with India as well. So it has the potential not to disrupt the world order, reshape world order, but it can exercise influence over multiple regions. So you are a global power. Next tier are middle powers, countries such as Turkey, South Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, and according to this article, India initially was part of this group, middle powers. And why do we call them middle powers? Because they do not develop or dominate multiple regions, but they have partnerships with other countries, meaningful relationships. They enter into agreements, pacts, negotiations, and through those institutions, they can exercise control or influence over other regions. Brazil is part of BRICS, India is part of BRICS. Turkey has relationship, technological defense relationship with multiple countries. So these are middle powers. Then we have regional powers. Saudi Arabia. It has control within its own region, Gulf. Beyond that, no. So it may be a leader of OPEC or OPEC Plus and will determine the prices of the crude oil, will impose quotas on all the countries in the GCC that beyond this quota you cannot push more crude oil into the market. We want to stabilize the prices, control the prices. Pakistan was also considered to be part of this regional power. That means within its region, it is able to exercise influence. Maybe Bangladesh, maybe Afghanistan, China. And then there are minor powers. All the countries are minor powers. Why? Because they have influence over their country, over their geography. According to this article, India was short becoming a global power. And that's when Operation Sindoor happened. When Operation Sindoor happened in the aftermath of the horrific Pahalgam attack, this article says how India responded to that attack and then Operation Sindoor and the messaging that it gave across the world. It may not have been handled well by India because the objective to isolate Pakistan diplomatically throughout the world didn't happen. And slowly and steadily, India is losing its ground, and we can now call India a middle power rather than a global power. And Pakistan's power is rising. Now it is trying to sneak into this group, into this tier called the middle powers. Why? According to this article, Pakistan has not elevated its standing by changing its economy. Militarily, it is still weak. Economically, it is still weak. But despite that weak power, it is now negotiating on behalf of US and Iran. Despite that weak economic power, it is now having a strategic relationship with Saudi Arabia, which I told you previously may be extended to Qatar as well. So it is fast emerging as a more consequential regional power with aspirations towards middle power status. So this article says South Asian power balance is shifting towards Pakistan. That's the crux of this article. Now let's look at another article, Cart Before Horse. Road accidents and the use of technology to ensure road accidents are minimized and later on completely abolished or completely thrown away. Elimination of road accidents. This can be important for your GS paper 3. The Supreme Court has taken so motu cognizance of road accidents in different parts of the country at least 2 times in the last 2 years. In 2025 as well as in 2026. That means on its own, without anybody approaching the courts have taken so motu cognizance of the road accidents. And now the government, the Ministry of Road and Transport and Highways, is set to introduce V2V, vehicle to vehicle communication technology. To do what? To avoid these road accidents. Now let's go beyond this article for a brief moment. There are countries, developed countries, where your driving license carries a weight. But in India, driving license does not carry much weight. Much weight in the sense, even if you do not know how to drive a car or ride a motorcycle, you can still get a driving license, because the system is such that it is liable to be misused, overused, hyperused, bribe, corruption, goose, and that's how you can get the driving license. But there are developed countries where getting a driving license may take 2 to 3 years as well. First, you have to enroll in the driving classes. You have to watch online classes. You have to see how the car can overtake, how and where you have to park, where you do not have to park, what should be the priority. Pedestrians should be given the priority. Traffic coming from the left side can have a priority, or a right side can have a priority. All these things you need to learn first through the online classes. Then you have to take the theory test. Whatever you have learned, you have to take the test. And the test in some countries carries 45 questions. And the passing mark is 36. That means if you do not score 36, you have to go back to the classes again. Then there is simulation. You have to ride a car but not on the road. Simulation. So that we can train you how to ride in foggy conditions, in rainy conditions, in windy conditions, stormy conditions. Then there will be classes. Then there will be a test. And it is argued that there are some countries where the tests are so difficult that they will at least fail you 3 to 4 times before issuing a driving license. Then you would say, sir, it is easier for people from India to get an international driving license in India and then drive the car in these countries. But in most of these countries, the international driving license issued by India is not valid, because perhaps they know that this is how they get the license in India. And on top of that, the condition of roads. Roads should have proper markings, that this mark will tell that you can cross over to this side. If this is a continuous line, it means you should not be crossing this line. You cannot overtake. This is an area where the car tire should not touch. All these things should be properly marked on the roads, but that's not the condition in most of the Indian roads. On highways, we may have some advancements of late, but in the interior roads, in the city roads, non-existent. Plus, you do not know when will a two-wheeler enter your way or an auto rickshaw enter your way. So the best part about a driver in India is not that you should drive well and you should save yourself from an accident. It is that you have to protect the ill effects of others. You have to thwart against the wrongful driving of the others. So you have to save yourself from the wrongful driving experiences of others. That means even if you are a good driver, you may still have to meet accidents because others are not following it. On top of that, road rages. Everybody seems to be angry for no reason, in a hurry for no reason. On top of that, driving under influence, which is not only the problem peculiar to India, problem everywhere, but in India, the laws are lenient enough. For example, even if you're driving a Porsche and you're driving under influence, the judge will ask you to write an essay on drunken driving and release you on bail. So your influence matters. Whereas in United States, no matter how influential you are, you will be booked. Whether it was Britney Spears or someone or Jennifer Lawrence who was booked for driving under influence, Tiger Woods was booked for driving under influence. So law is equal for everybody. But the point is, what is the context of this article? Article says we will use, and whether it will be done this year or next year, we will have to wait and watch, vehicle-to-vehicle communication technology. And what is this vehicle-to-vehicle communication technology? You can assume that these vehicles, they are like communication packets. Vehicles will communicate with each other. It is as if these vehicles are continuously talking to each other. So that if this car suddenly applies brake, it will be communicated to this driver. so that it can also clarify how to proceed. What is the distance between these two cars? What is the speed at which this car is traveling? All this data will be sent to all the cars in the vicinity so that we can save accidents. Particularly, from this particular road, a car is moving, at what speed, in which direction it is going. This may be conveyed to this car so that it can beforehand judge how should I approach. If this technology is used, it is going to reduce road accidents in India according to the government. But we have facilities, for example, in newer cars, driving assistance. If the roads are properly marked, the car will drive along that path on its own. And even if you shift on the other side over a period of time, the car will come back. Adaptive cruise control. Or if you are at the verge of dozing off, suddenly there will be an alert. But these are inbuilt in new cars. What if we need to ensure that such technology, vehicle to vehicle communication, is part of every vehicle? For that, you can assume that some kind of a SIM card will be installed in all the cars, which will cost 5,000 to 6,000 rupees, where because of this technology, the cars will be constantly communicating with each other, sending information so that we can reduce the traffic accidents. But this editorial talks about a criticism. It says we lack road design, routing and speed control. We have two-wheelers, pedestrians, non-motorized traffic. In this case, unless this is a smart technology, this smart technology will work only if we have smart roads. If you will not have smart roads and you're only using smart technology, it's not going to work on the ground. We need to change the behavior of the people also. Behavior in the sense, we think that we own this car, and by that logic we own this road as well. And if there is a pedestrian walking, he does not deserve to be walking on this road. While as in other countries, in developed countries, the first right is that of a pedestrian to cross the road. On top of that, there are some road markings where even the pedestrians cannot cross. We see people crossing even a highway, running on a highway, crossing on a highway, and that is what leads to some accidents also. So we need to first properly implement a plan on ground, in theory, give lessons to the people. What if these drivers, they don't know how to read this communication? So it is still a long way to go, but this is a welcome step to implement so that road accidents are defeated in India. But on which technology will it work? That also remains to be seen. Will it use the inbuilt technology in a sense that this is a 300 meter or 500 meter? Every 300 to 500 meter, there is a facility, which is the technology or the network which facilitates transfer and receiving of these messages? Or will it be part of your 5G networks? There are some countries which use 5G networks for this. There are some countries which use dedicated, as if it is Wi-Fi for this lane, that technology. And what sort of technology will be used in India, that we will have to wait and watch. But this is related to science and technology, an important advancement, because when toll collection technology changed, a question was asked in the mains examination. So this is where this can also be a potential question for your exam. Right? Great. Why digital vigilantism is not the problem? What is this digital vigilantism? You have bought this product X, and this product turns out to be faulty. Let's say this product is a washing machine. You bought it from a shop or from a dealer, but now this product is faulty. You talk to them, they don't issue you any clarification, they are not there to fix it or replace it. Ultimately, what do? You vent it out on social media that this particular washing machine bought from this particular dealer, this is faulty. I have been waiting to hear a resolution for the last 20 days. No action has been taken. Now this warns others not to buy this product. Suddenly this company will become active, will ask you to delete that post or delete that tweet, will seek resolution, may also replace this product. This is digital vigilantism. Now, this digital vigilantism is born out of necessity in India. If such a resolution would have been given to the people on their own, without any need to approach the social media, then this problem would not have arisen. For example, in November 2022, when a man urinated on a woman inside the Air India plane, international flight, for many days, for some time, this woman's complaint was not acted upon. It is only when she revealed on the social media, ultimately what happens? Action was taken. So unless and until we use social media as a tool to amplify our message, to amplify our grievance, nobody takes us seriously. But this is also where it may also be problematic. Problematic in the sense, unverified claims. For example, there is an individual who claims that I was sexually harassed inside a moving bus, and then she records that video when the person was sexually assaulting her or groping her. But then there are people who sympathize with this girl. They will also share this message, share this post, share this video, and later it turns out that she was doing this for farming her publicity, growing her online audience, and this was a fake, false complaint. Then defamation cases will be filed. And whoever has shared this message without checking the authenticity of this message are also liable for fine and penalty. It was in this backdrop when Delhi High Court made this observation about digital vigilantism. When you are expressing yourself, but you're also acting as a catalyst for public shaming. For example, many years ago, a poor boy was riding a motorcycle. A Sikh boy from the Sikh community. And then he was alleged, he was videographed by a woman, by a girl, that it's an eve teasing case, molesting case. That boy was removed from his job. He faced public scrutiny. Everybody called him a molester. He said, I haven't done this. And he fought for himself. And finally, it was revealed in the courts that he was not guilty. The girl was doing this for publicity. Or the girl was doing this for any other reason. But it is boy who was right. But even today, the society considers that boy to be guilty. Because you may only hear one side of the story, but whatever update there is on that story, you will not keep a track of it. So in eyes of the majority of the people, that boy is still guilty. And this is what happened when Me Too movement started in India. When against a fellow comedian leveled allegations of sexual harassment, unsolicited images were sent to her, and then this particular comedian was cancelled. But later, after a year, he revealed his side of the story and said, look at the screenshot shared by this woman. Half of the story is missing. It was consensual. What it leads to? Genuine victims, they will also not face justice, not get justice, because they will also be viewed with suspicion by the larger public. And that is what this article talks about. Digital vigilantism is not the problem. She says, to avoid digital vigilantism, a collective strengthening of processes and faith in processes is crucial. If I trust the process that I have been sexually abused, or my product which I have bought is not working, but I will get the redressal. I don't need to publicly shame that company or an individual on social media and resort to digital vigilantism. I don't have to do that. If the processes are perfect, if the processes work, if the processes are strengthened, till that time, digital vigilantism is the only way in which you can be heard and you can get justice. That is what we need to know from these topics. This is about it in today's the analysis of the Hindu newspaper. Thank you for staying with me. I'll see you again with more lectures. Till then, have a great time. All the best.